What is up, everybody? I am Taylor. It's going to be echoey and weird in here, and I'm sorry about that. The sound's not great in this room. The picture's not great in this room, and you're looking at me, and I'm not great, but it is what it is. It is October 5th, 2022, and this is the new comic book. Wait, Cranky Comic Book? Whatever. It's Cranky. I'm going to be reviewing books. It's been a long week, people. I moved to a different city. I started a new job. I still managed to read a crap load of books for you, and I'm going to talk about it, worst to best, as always. And we'll see if the sound is tolerable. It might be just god-awful. And then I'll try and figure out something else for next week. But for this week, it is what it is. My hair's a mess. I'm a hot disaster. And we're going to start with the worst book of the week, people, and it's a Marvel book. Who could have guessed that? We've got Edge of Spider-Verse number 5. This is not very good. You get Hunter Spider, Web Weaver, Siley Spider. These Edge of Spider books are kind of hot garbage. They're just an excuse to like throw random shit against the wall and see what sticks. You know, they've got a weird version of Kraven the Hunter as a spider. You get the world's first multiversal gay Spider-Man, I guess, but it just seems like a pastiche more than anything else. And then you get a silly spider, which is a stick figure thing. Probably the best of the bunch, honestly, but it's a bad book. Buy it if you want to spec on it. Don't read it. It's just leading into some Dan Slott nonsense. And I don't really love Dan Slott as a writer, it turns out. He writes really annoying dialogue, especially when it comes to Peter Parker. And how do I know this? Because I'm refreshed on it and picked up this. Because I'm a sucker for number 1. Spider-Man number 1, Dan Slott, Bagley on the art. Bagley's art's fine. He draws a fine Spider-Man. He's a serviceable artist, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's kind of what he is. And this is like Edge of the Spider-Verse all kind of ties into this book, and it's Dan Slott doing Dan Slott, and I just don't like his writing. I don't really love these multiversal spider books. I don't know why I picked it up. I picked it up because I was like, well, I'll give it a try. It's been a while since I read Dan Slott. Maybe he's better. But no, it's a contrived plot. It's weirdly quippy dialogue, and I get Peter Parker's quippy. I get Spider-Man's quippy. But this is just, I don't know, none of the quippiness rings true. And it's just, I don't know. You get the whole confusion fight thing trope, and then bigger disaster, and curse your sudden but inevitable. There's a lot of tropes in this book, and they all kind of play out in a very like tropey way. If you've read anything ever before, you're going to understand kind of what's happening, at least in the first part of this. And I don't know, it's fine. There's a lot of okay books this week, and not a lot of great ones, really. And we're going to get to that. So next. Poison Ivy number 5. At this point, I'm just reading this because I want to see how it ends. This is the trippy dream sequence, and it's fighting with Woodrow Wilson or the Floronic Man or whatever. It's also fine. It feels like a crappy version of a Swamp Thing book, kind of. Not just because of the Woodrow Wilson villain or Woodrow, whatever, the villain. And but you get the trippy art. You get the weak, like evil-ish Poison Ivy, who's kind of evil and kind of not. It's been doing that waffling thing since day one, and this is one of the more waffly of the issues. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't know if it wants to be pure horror. It doesn't know if it wants to be mainstream superhero. It just needs to make up its damn mind. And yes, I'm talking about the book as if it has options, but I'm out of practice, people. I know it's only been a week. I really feel out of sorts today. All right, next. And then we're going to try and make this a little bit quick, too, because I'm tired. I worked all day. It's a new job, people. I'm stressed. And I got bad hair and whatever. Kaya number 1. Wes Craig with Wordy and World. So Wes Craig did all the heavy lifting on this, so I don't want to go too crazy bad on him. And it's okay. It's got the young, I think, protagonist and then a younger storyteller point of view that's also possibly a protagonist. And without spoiling a whole lot, there's not a whole lot to spoil, honestly. It kind of plops you in the middle of the story. And it's an action romp from the get-go. It's probably young adult. It's not awful. I kind of like the art. It's just kind of, there's not a lot to it yet. And it's just, for a first issue, it's kind of weird that way. It has some fun moments and it has some fun things, but it's just, yeah, and I don't know. I don't know how to talk about this one because, without spoiling any of it, there's nothing to talk about because it's just such an action thing. So you get a bratty little prince with his older sister with a golden arm. That much I feel okay spoiling because it's on the cover in a big text blurb that fills you in. And I think they realized they had to do that because it really just sort of, you just jump in. There's not a lot of backstory, not a lot of anything in this. It's all right. Yeah. And next we're gonna do two at once because I'm being efficient, people. We have numbers 2 and 3 of Sword of Azrael. I'm done with this. This is an okay one, but it was just weird. It's multi-personality, split personality Azrael, and I've never been really into the character. I like Dan Waters' writing generally, and that's kind of why I picked this up. I didn't mind the first issue. It had some weird art stuff, and this also has some weird art stuff. It's got like pretty solid action sequences and pretty solid long shots and moodiness. It's just when you get up close on the faces, they turn weirdly like manga looking, and it doesn't fit. It's such a bizarre choice by the artist, and I don't quite get it. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that fit just doesn't fit in this book. This image here, yeah. And then the story itself, it's got some angelic and satanic and other mythological things that are just kind of chucked together. And there's moments of faith and all that, and it has a little bit of potential. It's fine. We're in that fine section of the week, but I'm not. I just don't care. I thought I was going to like the Azrael book more because I liked the first issue. Issues 2 and 3 didn't do it for me. And I picked them both up at once because I missed issue 2 when it first came out. And then this new LCS I've been going to, which does not bag or board or give any kind of discount. It has some beat up books I have to look more closely at when I'm picking them up off the shelf. It has a lot of books. So that's the one good thing. So I was like, oh, maybe I missed that one. I can give it another shot. And I probably shouldn't have in this case, honestly. If you like Moon Knight Light with weird cartoony anime faces, you might dig this book. But otherwise, I'd say skip it. It's really nothing special here. All right, next. I'm done with this one too. I gave it 2 issues. It's Patton Oswalt, Jordan Bloom with Scott Hepburn and Ian Herring. This is Minor Threats number 2. Somebody killed the hero's sidekick, and now he's gone batshit into killing all these villains. Interesting enough premise. And Patton Oswalt, I like him as a comedian, and I like him when he does some talky bits and some other writing. I don't love his comic stuff. It's really verbose, and he's using they're using this, what the heck, I can't even remember this character's name. That's the problem with all these new characters. This guy, he's a super genius that nobody respects, and comes up with all these ideas and stuff, and I don't know. It's a fun enough book, I guess, but it's just not grabbing me. The Insomniac is the Batman stand-in in this, and he's going evil and violent, and there's a stick figure thing. There's a lot of dialogue and a lot of dialogue. And it just, you can sort of tell it's written by somebody that can write, but is not really new to, and it has read comics, but it's kind of new to like writing them. And it feels that way. And, a good idea is not enough to make a good book. And that's kind of where this one falls. It's a good idea, but not a good book. All right, next. We have Dark Crisis number 5. I think I missed the last issue. I don't really care. I'm not going to go back and hunt it down. I don't really care. This is also fine, but it's just such a weird premise, even for a Dark Crisis book, to have Deathstroke be so weirdly mad that he's the focal point. And then there's Pariah, and then there's dead heroes that aren't really dead, and they're coming back. Yeah, other people love this one. It's not for me. DC's events are hit or miss, and this is a miss. It looks like this issue is even kind of a reset to the thing where the Justice League was dead. Now turns out no, they weren't. And now they're kind of back, and spoilers. It says it on the cover too. League Reborn. Nothing. This kind of negates pretty much everything that's happened in the first 5 issues and in the previous stuff. It's like, oh, okay, we're back to square one. This makes everything else pretty irrelevant and pretty useless and pretty blah. So, whatever. All right. And then another weird-ass one. It's okay. I like Phil Hester's art in this. I've always dug Phil Hester's art. Can't remember what else he's done, but I like his art. This is Gotham City, Year 1, Issue 1. I know it's a Batman book, and I'm tired of Batman, but it's technically not really even much about Batman. It's set in the 60s, and it's in crime noir, so it's like set later than most crime noir is, but that's because it's Gotham, so you got to have the Waynes in it somehow. So this is Wayne's parents. It's Tom King writing. It's a noir mystery. There's some racism in here. There's some racist dialogue. There's he's writing of the time, but it's just, it's again, all right. And like the storytelling device at the end of the issue feels very Tom King-ish. It's just the mystery itself I'm not that interested in. And it could be the environment. It could be the character. It could be that I'm sick to death of Batman. It'll probably go on to read when it's all collected list, because everything Tom King writes gets collected. I think he's a better writer when you have the whole story in your hands. I don't think he's great month to month always. This is better than some of the month to months I read. And if you like Phil Hester's art, it might be enough to get you. He's got that sort of sparse Magnolia-ishness. Yeah, that's a real word. I just made it up to it. But you get, I don't know, some also seems like mischaracterizations of the Waynes in here. And so it's a weird-ass book. It's Tom King. He likes to think he's very clever. And I think he thinks he's very clever with this. So, whatever. Next, we have Miracle Man #0. This is an anthology reintroducing Miracle Man. This is the one that was all dinged up in the corner. I got this one because the only other copy they had was like color rubbed all down the back. So, I don't know, I guess fight your battles or let it sit. Miracle Man apparently is coming back. And this is not even really a coming back issue. It's an anthology. You have the framing device by Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham, who wrote a lot of the Miracle Man back in the day, which I've not read much of what knowledge I do have of it is 30 years old, so it's not much. And then there's a Ryan Stegman story that's actually probably is that my favorite one in here if I think about it? No, actually, no, never mind. The Ryan Stegman story, it's okay. It's not much to it, honestly. The Mike Carey, Paul Davidson story, Paul David, yeah, that's probably my favorite of the bunch. And it doesn't have a whole lot to do with Miracle Man. It has something, it's a character I'm not familiar with. And it's just an interesting enough setup with this character. The art itself is probably nothing special, but it's at least an interesting story. And then there's a Peach Momoko tale that's kind of Momoko-esque. It's a kind of has that dreamlike quality that her stuff has. And it's not bad, it's just kind of dreamlike and whatever. So. And then next, I mean, it's you get some nice imagery off of her, and it's not crazily linear. Then you have some weird cartoons for whatever by Ty Templeton, and then the last story is Jason Aaron, and it's also fairly interesting about the nature of fiction and what else. It's a much better anthology than Edge of Spider-Verse. Still not a fantastic book, but not bad. So yeah, and. This one came out last week. I didn't get it last week. I'm getting it this week because my LCS in Appleton did not have it. This LCS had it as of today, so I picked it up. I read it. Bruce Campbell and writing Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. This feels like somebody that's written books before. It's got a very nice pacing to it. He's either letting the artist do their visual thing, or he's giving pretty good direction to the artist as far as how to pace and how to tell the story. And yeah, it's a fun romp. It's mostly a setup issue. That's my one complaint. And I thought this was a one shot, and I think it might actually no, it's 1 of 6. Never mind. I didn't read because reading is hard. So this issue's mostly a setup, but it's an interesting enough setup that I will be picking up the second issue. It's Sergeant Rock versus undead Nazi Germany zombies. And there's some fun bits in here. There's walkie-talkies that are called something else, and there's little bits and nods to technology. And there's a general sense that the Sergeant Rock and Easy Company, I never read the Sergeant Rock back in the day, but you get the general sense that Sergeant Rock is kind of outclassed in this and is about to get his ass kicked by a bunch of zombies, and that's a nice kind of thing. Plus, it's Bruce Campbell and zombies, pretty decent. All right, next we have a book that's also not bad, but it really feels like it's paying too much homage to the Grant Morrison JLA run. Batman number 128, Zdarsky with Jorge Jimenez. This is everybody versus Failsafe, and Failsafe is a robot Batman made to take down the Justice League, and that story's kind of been done before. Not that specific thing, but the fact that Batman has plans to take down everybody. It's kind of tropey, and this is also tropey. But if you've not read any other tropiness, it's a fun story, and Failsafe. It's a generic-ish villain, but it is at least kind of told in a fun way. I don't know, I'm probably biased. I like Zdarsky's stuff, and I think he writes a solid superhero book. That's all this is. It's a solid superhero book with a weak design of a villain, and it's not much more. And then there's a new backup story in here, also written by Zdarsky, that also has Zur-En-Arr, I'm never going to remember that, which is the weird Batman. I don't know. It's that other Batman that Grant Morrison kind of invented or brought back or whatever. Different artist. I like the artist on the backup story. Not much to it yet, and it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's it's all right. This is an all right issue. It's better than Josh Williamson's Batman. It's a hell of a lot better than Tynion's Batman, but it's still not fantastic. All right, next And yeah, this is going to be a quick review show, people. I don't know, whatever. Not going to go crazy in depth today because I don't know. Like I said, I'm feeling out of sorts. Junkyard Joe #1, Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. This is set in the world of Geiger, but this is way before Geiger. I think, yeah, and it's not 1972. Jesus, in Vietnam, and it's about Junkyard Joe, who's a robot. I don't want to give away the story, and there's not much story really to give away. It's a mostly, there's some dialogue, there's some setup, and there's a framing device that's kind of interesting and kind of fun. And then the story itself is it's actually pretty light on it. Gary Frank's art is solid. If you like the Geiger stuff, you like what they're doing there, and you like that universe he set up, you'll probably like this character. I think this character is going to keep coming back, but this is an intro to the character, a setup to the character, and it's an interesting choice the way they've done it. I don't really want to spoil how they've done it. I mean, other than to say it's a robot in Vietnam. So it's a robot in Vietnam, and there's lots of blood and fighting and dying and stuff. So if that sounds appealing to you, this one's probably worth getting. It's not a fantastic week for comics. This was good. This was not great. All right. And then 2 left. We're going pretty quick. This one also came out last week. This is Nice House on the Lake #10. It finally feels like this book is getting somewhere, which is good because there's only 2 issues left. The art, as always, is great. It's Alvaro Martinez Bueno and Jordi Belair on the coloring. And I don't know who's doing the heavy lifting. If it's Jordi on the coloring or is it Jordi Belair on the lettering? Hang on. People. I should probably know this. He might be doing the lettering. Yeah, okay. No, Jordi Belair's doing the coloring. So the coloring is doing a lot of heavy lifting on this book. I mean, without the coloring, this would just be a sketch of the house. But you get the lake, you get all that stuff. And I don't know I don't know how it's all split up. But gorgeous, has been from day one. The story has just kind of kept recycling and regurgitating itself through 9 issues. This sort of explains why that is, but it's not overly satisfying, and it doesn't feel crazily necessary. But it does feel like we're getting to some kind of resolution. It feels like we're getting to the sort of mystery of what the Nice House on the Lake is and what the characters are doing there and why they're there. And it's just, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this one ends. When Tynan's good, he's good. And he's good in this book. It sort of feels like this is one of the titles he cares about and he's not doing just for the money. And I get he's probably not doing anything for the money. I'm not trying to be that asshole that suggests somebody would do something just for a paycheck. Did I mention I have a new job? But this one feels like he's put more into it. You know, so with Something Killing the Children, it feels like he's kind of run out of steam on that one, and he really doesn't know what he's doing. And this one, you can sort of tell there's a plan from day one. We're getting to the nuts and bolts and the meat of the plan. Don't buy it if you've not bought the other ones. Just wait. It'll all be collected, and there's only 2 more issues left. Wait until it's all done. Get the collected version. Save some money. You'll probably have better quality. Even though DC's books are better quality than Marvel paper-wise and stuff. But, you can just read the trade. And there is a nice little thing at the end that sort of reminds you of how these characters are because it's been a goddamn long time since this book came out. Even with the reminder. And even with the sort of thing in here where you realize why these characters are all chosen and why they are all archetypes, a lot of them are really forgettable. That's a weakness of this. The characters themselves, other than Walter, are pretty. You can substitute them all. There's not with 10 issues in. You'd think there'd be at least one standout character. They go, oh, okay, and there was supposed to be that, and I think there's an effort to make that at the beginning. It seems like that faded in the middle. And it's more about the coolness of the story than anything else. So, cool story. Leaves a bit to be desired. All right, this one is my favorite book of the week. It probably could be a toss-up with Nice House on the Lake, but I like this idea, and I wanted to shout out a new book. And IDW's been putting out some fun, original content, and this is no difference. This is Earth Divers Kill Columbus #1. Apparently, it's been optioned or whatever, going to be a TV show, and without spoiling a whole lot, it's a time traveler that goes back in time to kill Columbus. Look, it's in the title. And this is mostly a setup issue as well. But it's paced pretty well. And the setup's effective. And you realize there's actual real peril to the main character. It's not perfect. There are some things where the dialogue seems clunky and it feels a bit off. but and like it sometimes feels a little bit wordy and it's a little bit unclear as far as like what's going on in the present versus the past. Not necessarily. You always know if you're in the past. You always know if you're in the quote unquote present in the year 2112. It's just the how did we get here part of the modern thing. It's or how did we get to like the ability to go back in time is not really been exposed yet. And like the way that the writer's writing around that just feels a little clunky. But and I know I just said butt like 12 times, but it's my show. People, I can say butt all I want. Kiss my butt. The idea is the strength of this one. It's kind of like Nice House on the Lake. It really and the art is actually not bad. Some panels are better than others, but when Davide Gianfelice, okay, sorry if I butchered that one, sir, is on. They're really on. When they're not, then it's just kind of a mediocre-ish book. But some of the panels are really nice, and like the idea of like going back in time and killing, say, Hitler is not a new one, but the way that they address it in here does feel fresh, and it feels like well, it's not killing Hitler; it's killing somebody else. So, if you want at least a very interesting idea book, pick this one up. That's what I've got. I will try and work on muffling the sound a bit more for next week. I'm also going to try and do a little trickery when I'm editing this, and which I'll do very light editing. I know. I don't normally do it, but I'm going to do my best to try and get it so it's not so hollow and echoey. If not, let me know if it's intolerable, and then I'll really work on it for next week. Maybe I'll try and get a headset or something, so you can see me wearing a cool headset and cover up this lovely work hair. All right, that's how I got it. I'm tired. I'm going to go order a pizza. I'm exhausted. Life is tiring. Get up at like 5 in the morning, people. That's not me. I'm not a day person. Not like sunrise. Who wants to know when that goes up? Sunset, much better. Even after. Yeah, post sunset, even better. 1 in the morning is my peak time. Not really. I don't have a peak time. My peak time is more like 2 to 2:12 in the afternoon. All right, I'm going to get out of here. That's all I got. Don't be a dick, even if you started a new job, move somewhere else, and you really don't know what the hell you're doing, and you need a nap, and you're just rambling, even more so than normal. See ya.